Powered by Righteous Media.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 321. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Coming up, I've got a very candid, extended conversation with the true political superstar and a man who represents hope for America in this dark and cold time. The one and only Governor Wes Moore is back on this program for a fourth time to bring his contagious energy, positivity, and patriotism, and you're not going to want to miss it, so stick around for that.
One thing I think that people should not be saying, well, can the Democratic Party save me? Parties are not going to save anybody. I mean, that's not what they're structured. That's not how they're built. And I think about it honestly, in my case, man, where it's like, the Democratic Party did not make me the governor.
My old friend Wes is back to talk candidly about what we're facing as a nation, what he's doing in Maryland to fight back, what his strategy is to push back and fight back and defend against Trump and Musk. He's got a message for the world. He's got a message for our children, and he's going to make his case for why he thinks Lamar Jackson should have been MVP. It's a hot and fast one that will bring you some hope, some light, and some heat. My exclusive, candid conversation with a man that I think will be president one day soon, the one and only Maryland Governor Wes Moore. But before we get to a little hope, inspiration, and true patriotism from my friend Wes Moore, from up here in the cold mountains, I've got for you some very hot top topics. Every morning we wake up and there's a new assault on our democracy, an assault on the fabric of our country, an assault on what it means to be an American, an assault on the dignity of our leadership in this country, and an assault on all things that we hold true and dear. And this morning is no exception, because Trump and Musk and their minions continue to wage war on our democracy, and now they're going into places that even seemed off limits for them. But now we know nothing is off limits for them, not even the 9/11 World Trade Center Health Registry, which serves hundreds of thousands of first responders who stepped up on 9/11 to help their communities in need. In those moments, the men and women who ran into the smoke, into the danger, into the fire, and are now, 25 years later, facing adverse health effects, including me. I've been a member of the 9/11 Health Registry because I served at Ground Zero in the New York Army National Guard. Like many of you watching, I was also a part of the movement to pass the initial James Zadroga 9/11 health bill that created the World Trade Center Health Registry, and then the extension. And then we had to go to Washington with Jon Stewart to fight and protect it again. Seems like every couple years we have to make a case to America about why leaving 9/11 first responders to die is a bad idea. So it seems that Elon Musk has decided that it would be much more efficient to just let a bunch of us die. So he's cutting 20% of the World Trade Center Health Program workforce. Yes, really. The cuts include a man whose name you should know, Anthony Gardner. Had a brother named Harvey that was killed in the North Tower on 9/11. Recently, Anthony has been working for the World Trade Center Health Registry. But on Saturday, he got a termination notice in what many 9/11 community advocates are calling an inhumane 20% staff reduction. 20%. John Field, a heroic former firefighter and 9/11 first responder and advocate for our community for the last 2 decades, said, "There's always been a backlog, but it was getting better, and now it's going to create an even bigger backlog." So here's my message to Elon Musk. Hell fucking no. So Trump and Musk want to come after the 9/11 health program. Now, the 9/11 Health Registry actually called me just last week to remind me to schedule my annual appointment up at Sinai. I do it every year. I go in and I get the breath test and I get the chest x-ray. And even if I'm feeling good, I know that my information goes into a database that can help other 9/11 first responders. It's the premier database on the biggest toxin exposure incident in the history of America. Now, We've marched on Washington before, and it looks like we're going to have to do it again. Friend of this show, Rob Serra, John Field, John Stewart, and all the others. Shamefully, again, we've got to put the bat signal up again to bring some of the first responders who are actually dying right now down to Washington, maybe down to Elon Musk's office personally, to remind him about the stakes of what it means to take care of our 9/11 first responders and what it means to truly never forget. The bat signal is up again. And so is our middle finger to Elon Musk. Hell fucking no. Never forget. Never forget my ass. Also this last week, fake Republican who was a fake independent, who was kind of a fake human being, but was once a Democrat, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was confirmed this week by the United States Senate to lead the nation's health efforts, which is like putting a rapist in charge of an all-girls school. It was, again, a straight party line vote where every Republican, except for Mitch McConnell, who seems to be having a McNamara moment, voted in support of radical, ridiculous, dangerous RFK Jr. to be health secretary. So today, America is less healthy, less honorable, and less safe. And yet another chunk of our nation's integrity is gone forever. This is not acceptable. This is not normal. This is not okay. And all of you who voted for him, all of you who happen to be Republicans, you are either compromised or you're cowards. Because our enemies are celebrating a less healthy, less safe, less strong America, and one that's led by somebody as dangerous, radical, ridiculous, and compromised as this guy. I have no doubt this is another attack on the integrity of our nation that has our enemies celebrating. But yet again, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell was the lone Republican to break ranks with his party and vote no on Kennedy, just as he had on Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and others. So Mitch McConnell is a lone voice of reason and patriotism in the Republican Party right now. Maybe it's his McNamara moment before he dies. But whatever it is, America needs it. And times as dangerous as this may create strange allies, but it's not the time to push them away. Now is the time to bring everybody closer that we can to defend our democracy, both here and abroad. Because speaking of embarrassing, Trump and the entire administration are doubling down on dangerous, stupid, and traitorous, and now meeting with the Russians and pushing away the Ukrainians, undermining their war effort that's taken years to build, thousands of lives compromised, and even as Putin, the war criminal who should be in jail, continues to bomb Ukrainian cities right now, Trump wants to negotiate, which means give everything away for Ukraine and give Russia whatever they want. And the embarrassment that is Trump and Hegseth on Ukraine has now extended across the administration to Marco Rubio and, of course, Vice President Vance.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action.
So Vance didn't express support for Ukraine at all in Munich. Quite the opposite. He lectured the Europeans on free speech. He sounds like one of those ignorant guys that's never even met anybody from Europe, much less been there. But he's talking down to them, just like he talks down to everyone. But what he's revealing is that he's a total lightweight, and everybody knows it. Foreign policy and international diplomacy is the deepest of waters. It's when you do things like accidentally start wars and negotiate on things like nukes. It is the highest stakes possible. And it's also exceptionally revealing. Foreign policy is the big leagues. And if you can't hit a fastball, you're going to find out when you go to NATO. If you can't hit a curveball, you're going to find out when you go to the Middle East. If you can't hit a knuckleball, you're going to find out when you go to Asia to deal with the Chinese over Taiwan. And these guys can't hit off the tee when it comes to foreign policy. But it's also very important for the world to know that Trump and Hegseth and Vance don't represent the majority of Americans on Ukraine. The majority of Americans support Ukraine. And an overwhelming majority of American veterans support Ukraine. That's why I started American Veterans for Ukraine with Bonnie Carroll, Adrian Bronnenberger, and others. If you've never seen it before, go to American Veterans for Ukraine now. But they are absolutely wrong on Ukraine and on Putin. And most Americans are embarrassed and shamed by their narrow, radical, isolationist, ignorant, dangerous, Putin-supporting stances. Because to quote Kendrick Lamar, they not like us. They are wrong, wrong, wrong. Especially and always President Mayhem himself.
Trump has taken, we welcome it and support it.
I just want to add to that. We had a very good phone call yesterday with President Putin. It lasted maybe an hour and a half. It was excellent, and I think we went a long way toward getting a solution to the horrible war where so many people are being killed, especially soldiers on the battlefield. At least 1.5 million soldiers have been killed on a ridiculous war that would have never happened if I were president.
And here's what Trump is doing. He's victim shaming Ukraine. It's geopolitical victim shaming. That's what he's doing. It's a disgusting tactic he's used his entire life. And he's not going to stop now. Speaking of embarrassing, now that Kennedy is no longer running for president, I feel like we're going to have something new from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth every single week. Check this out.
Well, like President Eisenhower, this administration believes in alliances, deeply believes in alliances. But make no mistake, President Trump will not allow anyone to turn Uncle Sam into Uncle Sucker.
He really said this at a NATO conference. This is just the beginning, folks, because this is the biggest league possible, and they can't even hit the ball off the tee. Saying we're sorry, Ukraine, will never be enough. But please know that he does not speak for most of us here in America. Many of us tried to stop him, and we will continue to try to stop him. And we will try to support you, independent of our president and government, any way that we can until victory. Ukraine is a nation of heroes, while America is being led by ignorant, treacherous, extremist sellouts. For now, but not for forever, as we'll get into coming up with our guest, Governor Wes Moore. So this week, pitchers and catchers report to spring training for Major League Baseball, which is a sign of hope. It's a sign that spring is eventually coming. It's also a reminder that baseball season is coming. And if foreign policy was a baseball game, this would be like accelerating a bunch of single-A ball players to the major leagues. And you can see them continue to struggle. Rather than the LA Dodgers or the New York Yankees, they look like America's bad news bears. Because foreign policy is about hitting a 103-mile-an-hour fastball, and then a 90-mile-an-hour slider, and then an 80-mile-an-hour curveball, and then a 70-mile-an-hour knuckleball, all in succession in front of 70,000 people on national TV with the whole crowd screaming at you. That's what foreign policy is like right now, especially if you're representing Team America. Just ask the USA hockey team that when they went up to play Canada last week was surrounded by thousands of boos as our national anthem played. That's where we are now, folks. The Canadians are booing us. And you can't blame them, given the way our president talks to them and talks about them. As with every episode of Independent Americans, there are issues that are front and center, my top topics. But there are also others that you might have missed, but should be on your front and center. Here's what's below the radar this week. So, the Trump crew, led by Hegseth and Vance and others, are embarrassing. They're also sneaky. So watch for the late Friday news dump. Almost every Friday, after dinner time on the East Coast, they drop another anti-democratic, radical extremist bombshell. The U.S. Army announced on X, formerly known as Twitter, that the U.S. Army will no longer allow transgender recruits to serve in the U.S. Army. Here's what the Army wrote. The U.S. Army will no longer allow transgender individuals to join the military and will stop performing or facilitating procedures associated with gender transition for service members. Stay tuned for more details. They tweeted this on Valentine's Day at 2:56 Eastern Time. Happy Valentine's Day, America. They hoped you weren't watching. But this was the latest weekly, late Friday, disruptive, distractive, overly political, controversial, and militarily unnecessary move by Trump and Hegseth as their national culture war continues to drive the tip of its spear into the Pentagon. As I've long warned, everything that they want to do in America, they're doing at the Pentagon first. From book banning to trans banning, it's starting at the Pentagon first. Also below your radar, as I've long warned, the Department of Veterans Affairs will be coming in right behind the Department of Defense when it comes to the culture war. Newly confirmed Secretary Doug Collins, who, by the way, was confirmed by half the Democrats in the Senate, is waging his own culture war now in the VA, mirroring exactly what Hegseth has been doing at the Department of Defense. They are a thunder and lightning attack on the two largest budgets and bureaucracies in the federal government, falling directly in line with the Trump administration and paralleling the attacks that happened on the Pentagon. VA Secretary Doug Collins is digging into the VA, and he's starting not with suicide, not with homelessness. He's prioritizing two things that should be expected, but are nonetheless still shameful. He's prioritizing attacking the press and defending Elon Musk and Doge.
Hey everybody, it's Doug again. I can't believe it. I've been here about a week. And you know the one thing that hadn't changed about DC? It's the media up here that like to tell you stuff that they want you to believe. I'm going to give you a breakdown. This is how it happens in the media up here. They take a possibility and then they run with a story because they want you to believe it because they got to write something. And frankly, they don't know what to write because right now President Trump is making progress and this administration is doing what it said, making promises and keeping them. But let me tell you one that's right now. There's a one that's going around in the media right now about veterans benefits being cut. I'm the Secretary of VA. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not happening. They can do hypotheticals all they want. I'm telling you about reality. Reality is veterans benefits aren't getting cut. In fact, we're actually giving and improving services in our Veteran Benefits Administration. They're actually clearing cases quicker. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. There's also this rumor out there that Doge is out there, is this infamous thing that's going to take personal information and do that. I'm telling you what, we got Doge representatives here that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that is looking at our contracts, making sure that we have the best run facility for efficiency to make sure who? The veteran gets the care they need. I'm happy to partner with them to find things that we need to get rid of so that we can put the money where it belongs. You know where that is? Back with our veteran. President Trump's hit the ground running. We've hit the ground running. And like I'm saying, if you want to come for the real truth, come to see me.
Collins has also banned the flying of the pride flag on VA facilities or even at your desk if you're a VA worker, as the culture war at the Department of Veterans Affairs continues to expand right alongside the Department of Defense. Oh, and one more thing below your radar. The VA has started firing people. 1,000 people, at least, were fired in the first wave last week. Because why should we need more mental health counselors in times like this? Yeah, we should be firing VA employees. By the way, keep your eye on this fact. 30% of all government employees are veterans. So 1 in 3 of every one of these firings that Elon Musk is executing is a veteran. I'll continue to reiterate, keep an eye on what's happening at the VA because it's not getting much coverage, but it's exceptionally important. And it's another place you should stay vigilant. And if you're a VA or a DoD employee and you want to share some information with me that you want me to get to the public, hit me up on our website, independentamericans.us. You can hit me up on social media or any of our platforms, and we will keep your identity confidential. So, in our winter of discontent, in our winter of cold and grim and dark and scary, of course, there are sources of light And one of them is my guest coming up, Governor Wes Moore, who will tell you himself something surprising that I've been telling you for a long time. The Democrats will not save you. The Democrats will not save us. The Democrats will not save America. And we see it proven more true every single day. If you want to see another reason that the Democrats and the duopoly really suck, let's look at the terrible, disgusting, and ever-evolving case of New York Mayor Eric Adams. So Manhattan federal prosecutors, at the urging of Donald Trump, have dropped charges against Mayor Adams, which proves again, in 2025, corruption pays. More and more by the day. Kiss the ring and you get a pass. Ask Eric Adams. Or ask Vince McMahon, the World Wrestling Entertainment boss, who also had a federal prosecution dropped against him last week. Manhattan federal prosecutors have ditched a criminal probe into McMahon, months after a judge quietly found that there was, quote, probable cause, and he covered up payoffs to women in his company. That happened the same week his wife, Linda McMahon, was nominated and had hearings for Department of Education secretary. But in 2025, corruption is paying off for the scoundrels that surround themselves in the orbit of Donald Trump. Politics is chaos, and the Republican and Democratic Party brands are toxic in America, increasingly toxic, of course, for very different reasons. But I predict in 2025, we'll see a lot of folks dropping their party affiliation and declaring their independence. Some will be for the right reasons, some will be for the wrong reasons. Also, this week related to Adams, the New York Times reported that Eric Adams is actually considering running in the Republican primary, leaving the Democratic Party and declaring himself a Republican. That would be unsurprising. He also could, of course, declare that he's a political independent, becoming the latest in a long line of shunned Democrats to join our independent movement, whether we want them or not, contaminating our otherwise independent brand. The last thing that the independent movement needs after RFK Jr. and Cornel West is Eric fucking Adams. We don't want you any more than New York does. But good luck with that. Republicans don't want Adams either. And needless to say, we independents don't want him either. He is truly Mayor Disaster. I know that Elon says we're not supposed to use hashtags anymore on Twitter or X, and maybe he's throttling my account and yours because of it, but I'm still going to use the hashtag Mayor Disaster. And, of course, we're bringing back one of our greatest hits of all, President Mayhem, which has never been more fitting than now. The Democrats will not save you. That's why I encourage Democrats to leave their party and recognize that they're not representing you very well, and they're definitely not representing their cities or their state. And there's no finer example of that than Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul in New York. Governor Kathy Hochul has the power to fire fellow Democrat Eric Adams as the mayor of New York, something that might be the most popular move she ever makes as governor. And when asked about it this week by our friend Rachel Maddow, this is how she responded.
You look at what happened here. This is not supposed to happen in our system of justice. The Bondi administration in that Department of Justice is already showing they're corrupt. Now, set that aside. I did see the letter that was issued by the acting United States attorney. The allegations are extremely concerning and serious.
Yes.
But I cannot, as the governor of this state, have a knee-jerk, politically motivated reaction like a lot of other people are saying right now. I have to do what's smart, what's right, and I'm consulting with other leaders in government at this time.
Weak, per usual from Hochul. This debacle with Adams didn't just get started. I don't know what else she needs to ponder. It's been unfolding for months. If she was truly putting the people of New York City ahead of her politics that she's playing so badly, she would have fired him months ago. And she's so inept and so weak, she may not even realize that it's the most popular political thing she can do. So, staying in line with the Democratic brand, why do something popular? Let's stick with the most unpopular thing that continues to make people hate us more and more by the day. If we've got President Mayhem and Mayor Disaster, I think we've just got to call her Governor Weakness. Because, like so many other Democrats, She will not save you. The Republicans will not save us. The Democrats will not save us. I'm hoping that independents can help, but they're no silver bullet either. In the end, it's leadership that's going to save us. It's leadership that's going to hold the line for democracy here in America and around the world. It's always been true. And in these moments of tremendous adversity, in this tremendous winter of depression and bad news and stress and anxiety and debauchery against our democracy, this is the time when leaders can and will rise. I tell you all the time, look for the helpers. Look for the people who are answering the call. Look for the people who are running in when others are running out. And I'm not going to bullshit you. In these times, they're few and far between. There aren't too many of them out there that we can look to, especially in politics. It's a sad state of affairs when we're celebrating Mitch McConnell. But just like President Zelensky continues to be a beacon of hope and positivity and strength for the world, we've got a few of our own here in America. Not too many, but we've got some. And in this episode, I think we've got one of the best, maybe the best source of positivity, hope, patriotism, and inspiration. A man who's been on this show 3 other times, a man I've known for over 2 decades, a man who truly cares about the people of this country and the fabric of our country in a way that almost nobody else I've ever met does.
Yeah, I'm coming from the bottom, but I'm rising to the top. Had to hustle every day, I ain't never gonna stop. From the shadows to the spotlight, I'm shining like a star. Got the power in my veins, you can feel it from afar. Power, power, I'm taking over now. Got my homies on the block, I ain't never backing down. Power, power, you can see it in my eyes. I'm the king of the struggle, yeah, you can feel the vibes.
He's the man that I've called Captain Positivity, a guy who represents a fresh voice on the political landscape, an honest voice, a candid voice, and a guy who can also catch a 40-yard pass from Lamar Jackson without missing a beat. RFK Jr. can be out there doing push-ups next to his trainer, popping steroids, but this guy actually put on a helmet and pads and practiced with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if any other governor in America can say that, but a lot of folks have reached out to me recently and said, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling lost, I need a source of hope, I need a source of inspiration. Well, I can think of none finer than our guest in this episode. The 63rd governor of the great state of Maryland, an Afghanistan combat vet, and a guy I've been honored to call a friend for over 2 decades, and a frequent visitor on this show. A man who is not afraid to speak truth to power, a man who is not afraid to call out his own party, and a man who is not afraid to answer the call in this moment. A man who one day soon could be president himself. He's back, folks, and we're going to get into all of it. So welcome to a little bit of light in the middle of this cold and dark winter. Welcome to a conversation with a true leader, a true helper, and a true patriot. Welcome to my conversation with my friend, Wes Moore. Welcome to Independent Americans, episode 321. Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country and around the world. These are dark times, but right before I hit record, the sun came out over here, and I think that is a reflection of what I hope we can get some of from this conversation. A returning champion, a man who's been with us 3 times and is representing legitimately, for some people, the only sunlight in America right now. Captain Positivity himself, the great and powerful Governor Wes Moore, is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, buddy.
Rieckhoff, good to see you, man.
I miss you.
I miss you too, brother. I really do. I really do.
I'm
proud of you. But I'm proud of you.
Proud of you. I mean, man, I am inspired every day. And it's wild. You first came on the show in 2019. Yeah. And a lot has changed since then.
That feels like eons ago, man. Damn. Yeah, that's right.
Last week feels like eons ago, right?
It sure does, man. It sure
does.
So
let me start with the question I always ask. Where are you and how are you, my friend?
I'm here in Annapolis, here at the State House. And, and honestly, I'm feeling resilient. And here's the thing, it's, and we tell our people where this is a very complex time. I start my day every single day with essentially briefings about what happened over the past 24 hours that we need to, what new executive order, what this, what that. But the thing I know is like we're built for this, man. You know what I mean? Like we have been carved and forged in a way that we don't flinch. Like that's been eked out of us. We don't do that anymore.
Who is the we? Who is the we, Wes?
Well, part of it is, I tell you, one of the reasons I love our veterans community is because I actually think that there is no greater training for moments of uncertainty like what we were forced to go through, right? It's this idea that the only certainty is uncertainty. And so figure it out. Figure it out. And that's the only option you got. Figure it out, right? But I also think that, even if you think about our administration in the first 2 years, where we've had crisis after crisis after crisis happen within our state. When we came on board, there was a crisis of violence. We had gone 8 straight years of 300 plus homicides in Baltimore City. Over an 8-year period, we saw how the homicide rate in the state of Maryland nearly doubled. The non-fatal shooting rate did double. I mean, there was just this epidemic of violence that we walked into. And you know what? We come in there and we say, figure it out. And so we make record investment in local law enforcement, record investment in getting cops on the street, using predictive analytics, working with our state's attorneys and our U.S. attorney and our mayors and county executives and local law enforcement. And in the first 2 years, we now have seen Maryland has had amongst the most precipitous drop of violent crime of anywhere in the entire country. Now you came in and said, okay, we got a crisis of getting people employed. We were 43rd in the country in unemployment when we first came on board. Now we made historic investments in childcare, historic investments in trade and apprenticeship programs, and getting people without college degrees into the workforce because it's ridiculous that we weren't getting into the workforce beforehand. And now Maryland has amongst the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. And when the Key Bridge collapsed, we saw how 13% of our economy was shut down instantaneously, where we had thousands of people who lost their jobs overnight, where we had small businesses that were shuttered, where we had 6 lives of individuals who were lost that night on that track, and when the Key Bridge collapsed. And what did we have to do? You figure it out, because you have to lead in crisis. And I think that the thing we continue to show, and why I feel a real sense of confidence, is we've shown in Maryland, you confront crisis with courage. That's how you win. And you stay steady, you stay focused, you don't get distracted. And so this is a wild time, man. But we're ready.
So when the ship crashed into the bridge, I turned to some friends and said, he's built for this. You are built for moments like that. And I think those of us who've been rooting for you and loving you and supporting you and working with you know that you were ready for moments like that. And I think I thought the world would kind of see you at the convention, but that happened before the convention. That became a moment, really, I think, when you emerged on the global stage where the whole world can see how you're built for this. But this is different, man. I mean, every morning I'm waking up to texts from people who I know and love who are saying, I'm scared. Yeah. Tell me what to do. Where is the strategy? Where are the leaders? And it's like a ship is hitting our democracy every single morning. Yeah. And we're going through what I've called a great cultural, political, artistic, moral Great Depression. Yeah. And people are feeling it and they're looking for hope. And I've told a lot of people, I'm not a Democrat, but Wes Moore is one of the single sources of hope and leadership that I see. So I'm just going to ask you straight up, man, like, can you save the Democratic Party? Can you save America? No pressure, man. But I think we're looking across the spectrum and I don't see anybody cracking through. Yeah. AOC sometimes, other people sometimes, but I see you as someone who's built for this moment because you transcend party. So I guess a 2-part question. Number one, people are really starved for leadership and you represent it. So can you be a leader to meet this moment? And frankly, what's the plan beyond Maryland? Because this is so much bigger than Maryland now. The moment's calling you and anyone who can help.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think that people should not be saying, well, can the Democratic Party save me? Parties are not going to save anybody. I mean, that's not what they're structured. That's not how they're built. And I think about it honestly, in my case, man, where it's like, the Democratic Party did not make me the governor. In fact, the Democratic Party had many other options that they were trying to make the governor other than me, right? I mean, like, we ran against the former head of the DNC. We ran against cabinet secretaries, ran against statewide elected officials. And then there's me, this guy who had no political background, the guy who was raised by an immigrant single mom, the guy who is an Army veteran and does not come from a political family. But I was like, you know what? Shit, I want to run for governor because I feel like our ideas can be better. And we ended up getting more individual votes than anyone who'd ever run for governor in the history of the state of Maryland. But that was because we didn't just have Democrats. We had Democrats, we won independents, we won a good chunk of Republicans, because I never have, and I never will somehow just be a talking point for a party. You know what I mean? So if people are looking for the Democratic Party to save them, I wish you the best of luck, because that's not what is going to navigate.
I literally have a segment in every show that says the Democrats will not save you. So it's helpful and refreshing to hear that from someone who's a Democrat, Wes.
Yeah. A party is not going to leadership will. Leadership, not a party, not this amorphous thing. It's leadership, this steady leadership. That's what's going to actually save us, right? And that's the thing that we're trying to show the people of our state. One thing I love is, I actually think if you want to look to the answers, if you want to see what's happening, look at what some of the states are doing. Because I think, listen, people talk about, we're seeing how powerful Washington is. And I'm like, I hear that. But you know what, though? We're about to show you how powerful governors are. We're about to show you how powerful states are. We're about to show you how powerful that this federalist idea that this country was built on, right? About the strength of the individual state, that we're now going to see just how powerful that machine can actually be. And so while we're doing things like making sure that we're driving down the cost of prescription drugs, when people are telling us that everything is too expensive, when we're doing things like saying we have to increase housing options and get more people in terms of being homeowners, turning more renters into homeowners, increasing inventory, which is going to drive prices down. When people are telling us these are the things that we care about, making sure our streets are safe, making sure our schools are good. If you're telling me that those are things are important, then I'm telling you, then that's what I'm focused on. And that's how we're going to make sure that our folks are protected. And so I just believe that this becomes a moment when this is about results. Are you actually getting things done or not? Are you actually making things easier for your people or not? And the people that are actually delivering results are the ones who I think in this moment are not just going to reward us, but it's those public servants. I believe that service will save us in this moment. And those public servants are the ones going to deliver us.
So you're putting big points on the board, right? You've been there 3 years now, right? And week after week, you're putting points on the board. You're hitting for high average. You're showing results in Maryland that I think are indisputable on everything from, crime to the economy, to the budget. You're hitting all the points here. But does the future in the next, we can't think about a year from now, right? Because the damage that's happening every 24 hours is so severe and so intense. And the national example that's being set, where yesterday the vice president's calling a journalist a dummy on social media, the language, the tone is shameful to so many of us, and is so disrespectful to the flag that's standing behind you. So when people say to me, where is the vision? Where is the strategy? Do I tell them, look at Maryland and look at Wes, because that is a beachhead or a safe space? It's almost like the balkanization of America, where Alabama is going to look like hell. New York is being poorly led, in my view, so it seems like it's getting shredded apart. Are you going to be like a rampart for the next year while Trump continues to rampage on our democracy? And is that what people should do, is invest in saving what we can over the next couple of years?
Well, I think there's a few things. And one is, yes, I'm going to make sure that I want Maryland to be this safe haven for progress, right? I want Maryland to be the best place in the world to change the world. And so for all of our change agents, all of our entrepreneurs, all of our business leaders, all of our social entrepreneurs, I want all of our educators and our doctors, I want them to choose Maryland, because this is a place that you are going to be safe. This is a place where you are going to be celebrated. This is a place where we are going to focus on innovation and making things not just more affordable, but more competitive. So yes, I want Maryland to be the place that becomes the shining example. And I think that it's a certain power that the states do have in that. However, we cannot underscore the damage that is happening. And also, frankly, to your point, it's the cruelty. It's the fact that when we're talking about things like knocking children off Medicaid, when we're talking about things like taking federal, and listen, and anyone who wants to have a conversation with me about efficiency, like, look at what we're doing here in Maryland. I literally had an executive order months ago talking about the government modernization initiative that's focusing on things like fleet consolidation and IT consolidation, fleet management, procurement reform, real estate reform, and literally cutting tens of millions of dollars of government waste out of our budget. We've gone 3 straight years now, Paul, with where you watch the state budget, the general fund actually decrease. I'm decreasing the size of state government, and I've done it 3 years in a row. And we've not only decreased the size of state government, we've increased efficiency. So I don't need a lecture from an unelected billionaire about how to make things more efficient in my state, because actually I would love to him to come spend time in Maryland and see how we're doing it, and showing how we're doing it in a way that is compassionate, in a way that actually makes sense, in a way that is transparent. But you cannot tell me that laying off people who are supporting our veterans, you cannot tell me that laying off people who are creating cures for cancer that's impacting children. You cannot tell me that someone who is a caretaker or someone who is keeping our streets safe, that somehow eliminating them is making us more efficient as a country. You cannot make that argument with a straight face to me. And so the way to do this.
You're punching back. But let me ask you this, because the punches are going to intensify, right? Yeah. And you're calling out Musk. You're nuanced in the way you call out Trump. Yeah. But let me ask you, if you are, the governor of Maryland, and Maryland is this safe space, a place where democracy can fight back, what is your strategy for fighting Musk and Trump specifically? Because the wolves are not only at the door, they're inside, right? Yeah. Yesterday, they're laying off 20% of 9/11 World Trade Center Registry health workers, USAID is being annihilated. Ukraine is being betrayed. When people say, how do we fight back? I don't know what to do. I feel overwhelmed. I feel demoralized. I'm looking for leadership. And we say, okay, look at Wes. What's the plan specifically to fight back against Trump and Musk?
You know what? I think part of it is we have to take a look at the military. And I say that for this reason. You're a 11 Alpha guy, right? We have people there are folks who are the door kickers. We kick in the doors, right? That's what we do. We are the kinetic operators. We fight and win our nation's wars. And we're the ones, you're the 11 bang bang, right? Now, we also understand you can't accomplish your mission without the JAG folks. And you also can't accomplish your mission without the cooks. And you're not going to be able to accomplish your mission without our combat engineers. You can't accomplish your mission without MI, right? Everybody has their lane. And this is actually, I think, part of the reason why people say, like, I don't know what to do and I feel overwhelmed is because everyone's thinking that they have to do everything. No, I'm like, do your job. Do your part. Because if you do your part, and then the guy next to me is doing his part, and the woman next to him is doing her part, that's how we actually have success. And so are we going to need to rely on our attorneys general to go sue when just dumb and unconstitutional things come along the board? 100%. Are we going to have to rely on our social service sector to say, you know what, when we are dealing with the collateral, when we're dealing with the debris of these broken systems, are we going to have to step up and do our work in a unique way and making sure we're serving additional communities? 100%. Are we going to need the people in Washington to make sure that part of their job is not just to push back, but part of their job is to come up with additional ideas and alternatives and actually being able to work with the moderate Republicans, because you're not going to get all of them. And that's not how this democracy is going to work.
Can I ask you on that one? Can I ask you to focus in on that one? Because, the Democrats are not going to save us. No. And what the Democrats have so far failed to do is to get any Republicans outside of Mitch McConnell in votes against Hegseth and Tulsi and RFK Jr. It seems like the Democrats don't have a strategy to move any Republicans.
Yeah.
And that's where they really feel fragmented to me. Are you, talk about you specifically, are you in a unique position because of your successes, because of your background, because of your your beyond partisan approach? Can you move any Republicans? Because we need some Republicans here, hopefully, to have some common sense, to be patriotic, to push back alongside the Democrats who vote no every time. But is there any way you can be a part of a strategy to actually move these Republicans that are one vote away from stopping Hegseth, from stopping other people?
Yes, and if you look at what we've done, we've introduced 26 pieces of legislation since I've been the governor of Maryland. Not only have we gone 26 for 26, we've gone 26 for 26 bipartisan. We've gotten Democrat and Republican support on every single bill that we have introduced thus far with our administration. I think about the Key Bridge, where I personally met with over 160 members of Congress, personally, walking them through the numbers, walking them through the financials, explaining why 100% cost share is actually going to be cheaper than 90% cost share because of the time value of money and how quickly we can get this thing done, and literally walk them through line by line about what we need to do and how I'm going to personally project manage this thing if I need to, right? On time and on budget. That we were able to get 100% cost share, not just because the Democrats voted for it, but we had Democrats, we had Republicans. Some of the greatest champions for the 100% cost share in the Key Bridge were folks like Steve Womack and Tom Cole, right? Republicans who said, we have personally met with the governor and we understand why this is important, personally met with members of our congressional delegation. So I just think that anyone who thinks that and this goes back to the point that the Democratic Party will save us, I don't even know what that means. Because there is an important role that each of us are going to have to play. And frankly, that role, it needs to be post-partisan. We have to understand not just the danger that is now at the door and has already entered into the home, but also it's the opportunities that we actually have if we can get our shit together and we actually be patriots in this moment.
I want to build on. So if you run for president, maybe you can run as an independent. Can I finally convince you to be an independent? Because that party is full of so much baggage in so many parts of this country, man. You know, there's so many things I love about you. That's the one thing I say is, even though he's a Democrat, I love him. And I wish you would declare your independence and break the seal, because so many would follow you if you did. But I think there's going to be an environment where more people become politically independent, are leaving the Democratic Party, and whether or not, luminaries like you do it or not. But let me ask you specifically, if I can, Wes, two messages. One, I want to ask you to talk to our kids to end this. But before we do, can you talk to the world? Because the world is looking at our corrupt, mean, ignorant, extreme leadership in this moment, where they're making Russia sound like a reasonable ally and victim shaming Ukraine. I know you're focused on Maryland, but you have been entering select conversations internationally. Things impact Maryland. It's a very global state where you're touched by the intelligence community and defense. Right now, the whole world thinks we're fucking crazy and thinks that we're all like Trump, or we're okay with what Trump is doing. Can you talk to the world and represent a sane voice for America? When I say yesterday, yes, Trump is saying these things, but he doesn't represent all of us. Just in your own words, can you represent to the world what you think America still stands for in this moment?
Yeah, I think America represents still this beautiful grand experiment. And I think people have to remember that just like any experiment, we have ups and downs and we have ebbs and flows. But if you look at America in its totality, that this country has been and will continue to be a true beacon of what hope and opportunity and change can actually look like. And anyone who thinks that that is not true, I just simply ask, look at our history. I am literally sitting in an office that is about a 5-minute walk away from the Annapolis docks, which was one of the first and largest slave ports in this country's history. And I'm standing 5 minutes away from that spot where so many of our ancestors first entered into this country. And I'm now sitting in the second floor of the State House as the 63rd governor of the state of Maryland. This country has a deeply uneven history. This country's history is complex. It's also long. And so for anyone who feels like America has now conceded, I just simply ask them this, hold on, guys. Because if there's one thing I think this country has continued to show, is that patriotism is not a momentary thing. Patriotism means understanding that we have a joint and collective responsibility to be able to push things and make things a little bit better for our next generation. And we are not conceding that. That just hold on, because while our country's history is uneven, we eventually bend it towards progress, not because it just bends automatically, but because there are patriots who make sure that it actually bends that way. Don't give up on us.
You are leaning hard into that bending motion your entire life, and especially now. I wish we had more time for me to talk to you about whether you really think Lamar Jackson should be the MVP.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, huh?
I mean, it's not close. I mean, like, listen, and I say this with all love to Bills Mafia. Like, Josh Allen is he's a dog. Like, I get it. He had a very good year. Josh Allen is a very good quarterback. Lamar Jackson is a transformational quarterback. Lamar Jackson, he had better.
And neither one of them is a Super Bowl quarterback yet.
I know, and that's a whole nother issue. But honestly, even if you ask folks in Bills Mafia, if you said if you could have Lamar Jackson or if you could have Josh Allen right now, who would you take for the next 5 years? I'm telling you, the majority of this country would say I would take Lamar Jackson. He's just how do you prepare for a Lamar Jackson? And even statistically, he had more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, more rushing yards. I mean, like, this guy, he is so difficult to match up against. Josh Allen is a very good quarterback, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but he is not transformational in the way that Lamar Jackson is.
There is so much baked into this discussion about America and Lamar Jackson.
There is.
Josh Allen, right?
For real.
But I will tell you, when I play Madden's 25 with River, we're taking Lamar Jackson, right? I mean,
of course.
But neither one of them have won yet. But this is part of why I think you are mastering the culture in a way that you understand the culture. And I mean American culture in a way that Democrats have not been able to do. You're at the Ravens games and you're at the Commanders games, which is kind of amazing how you're doing that. But you're hitting batting practice with the Baltimore Orioles. You're out in the community, but you understand the culture. And I joked with you in this. I said, you're in the best shape, also, I think, of any Democrat out there. So I would love to see RFK Jr. in a UFC cage with you, because
I'd love that. I'd love that, bro.
Yeah.
oh yes.
Dana White. You want to bring people together? Let's get Wes in a cage with steroid pumping RFK Jr. and let's see.
Let's do it.
Take that one.
Let's do it.
All right, last question, and I gotta let you go because you got a million really important things to do. A lot of young people are scared. They're fed up. They're checked out. Maybe they don't know about you yet, or maybe they've heard about you, or they're gonna hear about you. But the people who are like, fuck it, it was a good 250 something years in America. It's all coming down, and I'm going to be hiding out in the mountains, or whatever they're saying. Young people, especially, I think, are scared because they've never seen. Nobody's ever seen this before. But young people often feel abandoned by their institutions, by their leaders. What's your message to young people?
I'd say your feeling abandoned is justified, man, because we have been. I mean, I'm, I always say I don't. When I say I don't come from a political family, like I don't come from a background who's used to making policies. I come from a background of a family that's used to suffering the consequences of them. So, like, when people say we've been abandoned and this has not been fair, like, that's real. Like, I watched my dad die in front of me when I was 3 because he didn't get the healthcare he needed. My mother didn't get her first job that gave her benefits until I was 14 years old. And this is a woman who went on to earn a master's degree. So, like, when we're having conversations about inequitable pay and the wealth gap, I'm like, yo, I don't need a white paper to explain that. I grew up in it. And so the thing that I would say to a lot of people who might feel frustrated about the system is you have a right to, because the system has not been fair. And what we're watching right now, in many ways, is a compounding of this lack of fairness. This is not tearing the system up to make it better. This is lighting things on fire because I like the feeling of flames on my face. This is like anarchy. The thing I would just tell people is this, though. The only people who have ever made any real change in people's lives are not ones who have lied about our history, but are ones who've actually acknowledged it and tried to make it better. Are the ones who woke up every morning knowing, yes, this system needs fixing, but if I'm not the one fixing it, then I'm just making it worse for everybody in my life. The ones who have made an impact are, as you always say, Paul, and I love you for it, it's the helpers, right? Look for the helpers. Look for the ones who are willing to raise their hand. Look for the ones who are willing to put on the uniform. Look for the ones who are waking up before the sun comes up. Look for the ones who are willing to sacrifice and come home long after the sun has gone down, but who are going home knowing I did a good day's work. Look for the ones who take showers after work and not before work. Look for them, because they're the ones who understand what it means to be a patriot, that I'm willing to sacrifice for something better if it means that something better is actually promised. And so for all the people who feel frustrated about where we are, I say, I hear you, I feel you, but now I'm looking at you and say, but what are you going to do about it? Are you going to curl up into a fetal position? Or are you going to stand up and fight? Because I'm fighting. You're fighting. We got a whole legion of folks who are saying, we're here to fight. And those are the ones and that's what makes you immortal. That's what makes you eternal.
When there's a fight, I want you with me, man. In the mortal combat that is our political system right now, you are my first choice to go in. And that's why I tell people, if you want hope and you want strength and you're looking for it, Wes Moore has got it. And maybe most importantly, it's contagious. And that's why I know every time I'm around you, I feel elevated, to use your word. I feel inspired. I know other people do too. And the sacrifices that you and Dawn and the kids are making are tremendous. So I just want to thank you for that out in the open. Lauren sends her love. The boys send their love. And
give them all my love.
We just,
Bro's amazing, bro. You're a lucky dude.
We are
Amazing.
We are both very lucky dudes, but this is a lucky country because we're still producing and supporting leaders like you, man. And I love you, and I'm grateful for you. Everybody's praying for you and rooting for you. Just keep doing your thing, man, because we are all rooting for you. And there are a lot of days when people are getting out of bed and they need to flip over to your Instagram page and away from the other stuff, which I've told you is like what I call West porn. It's like if you guys want some hope. Is Wes with like his sleeves rolled up, swimming with firefighters. He's got puppies. He's hitting batting practice. He's catching dimes from Lamar.
Yes.
But it's contagious, man. And we need it now more than ever. You're a great patriot and a great leader, and we're thankful for you, man. I love you very much, and thank you for all you're doing.
Love you, brother. God bless you, man.
Go get him. Go get him.
Sure.
Folks, thank you for sticking around. If you like this conversation with Governor Wes Moore, please subscribe wherever you're listening or watching now. If you're not watching, please go and find us on YouTube and subscribe there now. We're pumping up video episodes that are really exceptional and getting better by the day. Big shout out to our creative director, Chris Rosenthal, and our thanks to our Patreon members who continue to support this movement with their donations and their support. If you want to be a Patreon member, you can get a look behind the scenes with me on every show, an advance notice on our guests, and much more. Go to independentamericans.us right now. And please, give me a shout out. Let me know what you think of this show. Tell me what episodes you like most. Tell me who you'd like to see me talk to in the days to come. And you can also leave us a voicemail message. The number is 317-721-1718. That's 317-721-1718. Give me a shout and let me know what you think. And to close the show today, a few quick Rieckhoff's recommendations. If you're looking for something to take your mind off the chaos that's happening, I'm going to point you to a different kind of chaos. Check out the fabulous new series, American Primeval, on Netflix by my friend and guest of this show, Peter Berg. I told you before to check out his amazing flag football ad that ran in the Super Bowl. Well, take it a step further and check out the powerful, invigorating, violent, and compelling new series on Netflix called American Primeval. If you like 1923 or Yellowstone or that whole series, you're going to like American Primeval even more. And I hope our friend Peter Berg will be back on this show soon to talk to me about that, what the hell's going on with our New York Giants, and much more. Last week was the NBA All-Star Game, which meant it was the dunk contest, which does not quite have the luster it used to have when I was a kid. I have a recommendation to the NBA and Adam Silver. Bring the stars back. It's great that Mac McClung has won the dunk contest for 3 years in a row. The guy is electrifying, and he's obviously a master of dunking. But let's please bring the best NBA players back into the dunk contest like when I was a kid. How great would it be to see Ja Morant and Giannis and even Wemby in the dunk contest? My recommendation to Adam Silver, bring back the stars. Throw a couple million out there and see who wants to win the dunk contest next year. My final recommendation, college basketball. It is coming, folks. March Madness will be here soon, and it is always, in my view, the single best sporting event of the entire year because of the fight, because of the upsets, because of the national unity, because of the excitement around kids playing college basketball and shooting for the stars. It's always an exciting time of year, and it marks the end of winter and the beginning of spring. So get ready, folks, and start getting your brackets out now because it's almost time for March Madness. My last recommendation, be sure to go to independentamericans.us and support this show, share it far and wide. We don't have the big budgets of the cable networks, but we do have you, and we have the fight that we continue to bring every single week because the future is full of independents. Because independents are the future, and we're not alone in our independence. You even heard that from Governor Wes Moore today. America's more divided than ever before. But we at Independent Americans and Righteous Media are working to change that every single day. Adding light to contrast to heat, busting up the status quo and offering new leadership and new options to our political and news environment. And be sure to check out independentveteransofamerica.org. If you are an independent veteran that's interested in running for office this year, it could be for local school board, county executive, or something higher. Or if you want to run in the future in 2026 for Congress, for governor, for dog catcher, we want you. Go to independentveteransofamerica.org where we're looking for our 25 in 25, our 25 top candidates, independent veterans who will meet this moment, like Wes Moore talked about, and represent the helping voice of the future. And if you're not an independent veteran, make a donation, spread the word, volunteer your time, your social media, and let people know at independentveteransofamerica.org. We need everybody to keep this movement growing because our independent movement is the hope for the future. Even when it's cold and snowy outside, we can bring some light to help pull ourselves and pull others through. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Governor Wes Moore. If you did, please share it far and wide. Invite your friends and family to declare their independence now. And stay vigilant, my friends, especially in this dark and cold winter, because eternal vigilance is still the price of freedom. And hope is the oxygen of democracy, which I hope you got a bit of today from Governor Wes Moore, because that hope will help you stay vigilant. And know you're not alone in your vigilance. We're all in this together. I'm your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Thank you for listening. Down with Hamas. Down with Putin. Slava Ukraine, especially now. Stay warm out there. Keep the faith. Don't let the bastards get you down. And stay vigilant, America.
Powered by Righteous Media.